What you're about to witness is a masterclass in how Muslims treat logic like the devil they hurl stones at in Mecca. Meet Israel Hassan, a lecturer, speaker. On TikTok, she has over 300k followers and 3.9 million likes. So the algorithm decided to show me one of her videos where she attempts to answer these questions.
Why did your Prophet Muhammad marry a 9-year-old girl? How can you call Islam the perfect religion when children were being married to a grown man?
Those are very good questions. So let's see how she answers.
First of all, judging a 7th century marriage by using 21st century standards is totally unfair.
Here is the problem. Quran 33 verse 21. There has certainly been for you in the messenger of Allah an excellent pattern for anyone who hope in Allah and the last day and who remembers Allah often. This verse declares Muhammad an excellent pattern for whoever hope in Allah and the last day. Whoever here applies to all believers across time. So Muhammad's actions aren't just events 1400 years ago. No, they have been given a divine stamp of approval and lauded as an excellent pattern for all Muslims, past, present, and future. Now, Muslims often claim that this verse doesn't apply to all of Muhammad's actions. They distinguish between actions tied to specific historical or cultural context and actions that establish general moral or legal principles. To support this distinction, they refer to Quran verses like chapter 33 verse 50, where Allah made it lawful for Muhammad alone to have more than 4 wives. And they refer to hadiths in Sahih Muslim, which narrate how Muhammad gave Muslims bad agricultural advice that led to a poor harvest. And when he was confronted about it, one account reported him as saying, "You have better knowledge of a technical skill in the affairs of this world." Another account reported him as saying, "I am a human being, so when I command you about a thing pertaining to religion, do accept it. And when I command you about a thing out of my personal opinion, keep in mind that I am a human being." But if it is the case that not all of the conduct and advice of Muhammad is an excellent pattern universal for all Muslims, how exactly can we tell which conduct qualifies and which doesn't? How are these boundaries determined? Before you can dismiss the criticism of Muhammad's marriage as being unfair because it was done within a historical cultural context, you have to establish first that his marriage to Aisha doesn't fall under the category of conduct that is not an excellent pattern for all Muslims.
Because at that time, it was common across many civilizations for girls to marry as soon as they reached puberty. And according to Jewish law at that time, girls could be promised for marriage from age 3 and married after reaching puberty. And even in Christian Europe, King Richard II of England married a 6-year-old girl named Isabella of Valois in the year of 1396. So why do you accuse Islam for this when it was normal in many other cultures at that time?
Wait a minute. So why then should anyone become a Muslim when what is culturally obtainable in the religion is no different from what is prevalent in surrounding cultures? I thought Islam was supposed to be the perfect religion. That was part of the question.
How can you call Islam the perfect religion when children were being married to a grown man?
I mean, Quran 3 verse 110 calls Muslims the best nation produced as an example for mankind. They enjoin what is right and forbid what is wrong and believe in Allah. And as we have seen, Quran 33:21 calls Muhammad an excellent pattern for all Muslims. As for disbelievers, Quran 98 verse 6 calls them the worst of creatures. But when it is time for contextualizing Muhammad's marriage to Aisha, we are suddenly comparing his marriage to what the kuffars did and what their laws permit. So the best of people and their excellent pattern, we are just like everyone else. How are they the best when they are identical to everyone else? All this talk about what the Jews did or what king whoever did is inconsequential. If Muhammad is the excellent pattern, he should be superior to these cultures and not identical to them. So please tell us how it is that Allah's excellent pattern married a child like every other barbaric kafir around him, or at the very least explain how Muhammad's marriage to Aisha doesn't fall under the category of conduct that constitute the excellent pattern mentioned in the Quran.
Also, children grew and matured differently at that time because they lived naturally with healthy food, clean environment, and no artificial hormones. Like a 9-year-old girl on those days was not like a 9-year-old today. And
what does this even mean? Is it okay to marry a 9-year-old who lives naturally with healthy food, clean environment, and no artificial hormones because she would have matured differently? By the way, there is no solid evidence that girls in the past reached puberty earlier than today. Studies have shown that in the classical and medieval years, the age of monarchy was generally reported to have been approximately 14 years, with a range from 12 to 15 years. So essentially, people in the classical period, the time of Muhammad, reached puberty at the same age as people today. But even if a 9-year-old has started seeing her period, it doesn't mean that she's ready for a sexual relationship. Puberty is a process that doesn't just end once the girl starts bleeding. And maturity is not just physical, it is mental, psychological, and emotional, and none of that happens at 9. So again, if Muhammad is the universal excellent pattern for the best nation to ever exist on the planet, how come his choice in marriage runs contrary to our objective understanding of childhood and human development?
If we come to judge the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ fairly, we must also look at the type of his marriages. Like he married Khadija radiallahu anha, a widow, 15 years older than him, and he remained loyal to her for 25 years until she passed away. And after her death, most of his marriages were to widows or divorcees, and it was mainly to protect them or unite Muslim tribes.
This isn't to judge Muhammad fairly. This is just a deflection. Muhammad's marriage to an older woman for 25 years doesn't excuse or justify his marriage to a 9-year-old. His other marriages to widows and divorcees don't erase his marriage to a 6-year-old whom he slept with when she was 9. It is the same way Bill Gates' renowned humanitarian effort across the world don't excuse his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Even Jeffrey Epstein tried to launder his reputation with humanitarian activities, but it still didn't change the fact that he was a pedophile and a sex trafficker. So again, if Muhammad is the excellent pattern for the best nation, how come among his older, widowed and formerly divorced wife, we also find a 9-year-old?
And Aisha radiallahu anha was the only young virgin the Prophet ﷺ did marry. And he did not marry her out of desire. He only married Aisha after receiving revelation in a dream, a command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to marry her. And the dreams of the prophets are a form of divine command, not imagination or lust. It's always a revelation to the prophets about tasks that they got to do. So this marriage was completely based on a command, based on the plan and wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not a personal desire.
If that was the case, then why did you waste our time talking about historical context, biology, and other marriages Muhammad had? None of those things was the reason Muhammad married a child according to your new claim. The real reason was that Allah commanded it. Now, does that mean his marriage to Aisha falls under the category of conduct Muslims should take as an excellent pattern? Or is it like Quran 33:50, where the command only applies to Muhammad? I would say it is the former because Imam Bukhari tells us this is in line with what Allah said in Quran 65 verse 4, where he prescribes a divorce waiting period for those who have not menstruated. But either way, I thought we were all operating under the moral compass that says having sex with a child is evil. If that's the case, how come Allah is commanding it? And this has been the entire point of my rebuttal, though I've been doing it indirectly. I have been saying, how come Allah, the most merciful, the all-wise, all-knowing, perfect and righteous God, says that Muhammad is an excellent pattern for Muslims, the best nation, yet the same Muhammad married and had sex with a child? How can such a righteous deity give his highest moral stamp of approval to a man with such immorality? But now you are telling me that Allah, the most merciful, the all-wise, all-knowing, perfect and righteous God, was the one who instructed Muhammad to marry a child. Doesn't that make him an evil deity whose commands are evil? I mean, Muhammad was on his own looking for cougars, widows and divorcees to love and protect, but Allah decided to tarnish his reputation by commanding him to marry a child. How can the most merciful Allah command such wickedness?
And you might be asking, what was the wisdom behind that command? We can see this wisdom today. By marrying the Prophet ﷺ at a younger age, Aisha radiallahu anha lived many years after his death, which allowed her to narrate over 2,000 hadith, covering personal, legal, and everyday life details. She also became one of the greatest scholars of Islam. She also documented the Prophet's actions and sayings, which now form a foundation for Islamic law, Sharia. And without her close relationship with the Prophet and strong memory, we would have missed many important parts of his life, like rulings about prayer, purity, and family life.
So the morality of Islam is essentially the end justifies the means. Child marriage is justified by the child growing up to become a prolific storyteller. That's like saying slavery is justified because many descendants of slaves have become famous billionaires, politicians, comedians, athletes, actors, musicians, and fashion icons. In fact, slavery has led to more good things in the world than Muhammad's marriage to Aisha. But that don't justify slavery the same way Aisha's later exploits don't justify Muhammad's child marriage.
This marriage wasn't by coincidence or out of desire. It was a part of the plan of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
But that's not always mutually exclusive. Just ask Aisha, the girl Allah chose to narrate stories and rulings. And in one of her stories, she said about Muhammad, I feel like your Lord hastens to fulfill your wishes and desires. And her feelings were justified. When Muhammad was too shy to tell people not to stay too long in his house when they come to visit, Allah came through for him with a revelation. Quran 33 verse 53. O believers, do not enter the homes of the Prophet without permission. And if invited for a meal, do not come too early and linger until the meal is ready. And if you are invited, then enter on time. Once you have eaten, then go your way. And do not stay for casual talk. Such behavior is truly annoying to the Prophet, yet he is too shy to ask you to leave. But Allah is never shy of the truth. When Muhammad married 9 wives, while he told his followers to marry only 4, Allah again came through for him with a revelation in Quran 33 verse 50. O Prophet, we have made lawful for you your wives to whom you have paid their dowries. Also allowed for marriage is a believing woman who offers herself to the Prophet without dowry if he is interested in marrying her. This is exclusively for you, not for the rest of believers. When Muhammad desired to marry his cousin, the former wife of his adoptive son, it was a taboo for the Arabs around him, but Allah as always came through for him with a taboo nullifying revelation. Quran 33 verse 37. And remember, O Prophet, when you said to the one for whom Allah had done a favor, and you too have done a favor, keep your wife and fear Allah, while concealing within yourself what Allah was going to reveal. And so you were considering the people, whereas Allah was more worthy of your consideration. So when Zayd totally lost interest in keeping his wife, we gave her to you in marriage so that there will be no blame on the believers for marrying the ex-wife of their adopted son after their divorce. And Allah's command is totally binding. Of course, Muhammad, the man with 9 wives, was sleeping with one of their slave girls, and his wives didn't like it. So he swore an oath to them that he would never have sex with that slave girl again. But Allah saw the true desire of his heart and came to his rescue in Quran 63 verse 1 and 2. O Prophet, why do you prohibit yourself from what Allah has made lawful for you, seeking to please your wives? And Allah is all forgiving, most merciful. Allah has already ordained for you believers the way to absolve yourself of your oaths, for Allah is your guardian. He is the all-knowing, all-wise. I am sure Muslims have ridiculously brilliant responses for why Allah in all these examples was commanding Muhammad and his companions to do exactly what would please Muhammad. But they can't deny that Aisha saw all this and felt that Allah hastens in fulfilling Muhammad's wishes and desires. Because when Muhammad wanted something, he soon received a revelation that perfectly aligned with his desires.
But that's why it's hard to believe, and may Allah make your hearts see the truth one day before it gets too late.
You didn't even come close to answering the question. Yet you are praying for our hearts to see the truth that you haven't shown us. Remember, the questions she has tried to answer are:
why did your Prophet Muhammad marry a 9-year-old girl? How can you call Islam the perfect religion when children were being married to a grown man?
And the answers she has given us thus far are: 1. Muhammad married a 9-year-old because everyone else in his time did it. But Islam is still the perfect religion, though it is no different from the barbaric cultural practice of the place and time it originated from. 2. Muhammad married a 9-year-old but also married cougars, widows, and divorcees. That excuses his marriage to a child, and Islam is still the perfect religion. 3. Muhammad married a 9-year-old because his God permitted it, and his God is so wise that Aisha later became a famous teller of tales, and that is why Islam is the perfect religion. The only way someone would accept these explanations is not if their hearts are open, but rather if their hearts are closed and seared with hot iron. But perhaps this is yet another low-hanging fruit. I mean, she is a woman, and Muhammad, the excellent pattern, said women suffer from a deficiency of the mind. So to the Muslims watching, please hit the comment. Let us know know what your superior response would be, or you can point us to a video that offers a more intelligent and mind-blowing answer to these million-dollar questions.
This isn't part of our religion. There's a reason to it. Yeah? We have no doubt, and we're proud of that.